The rain hammered against my office window that March morning in 2023, each drop like a tiny fist pounding out a rhythm I'd soon learn was counting down the end of my life as I knew it. My name is Liam O'Brien, and at 41, I thought I had everything figured out. Successful career as CFO of Meridian Pharmaceuticals, beautiful wife, best friend since college, and a house in Edina that looked like something out of Architectural Digest. Funny how the truth has a way of shattering illusions. Mr. O'Brien? My assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. The FBI agents are here. I straightened my tie, the blue one Rachel had given me for our anniversary, and opened the door. Two agents stood there, badges gleaming under the fluorescent lights like promises of justice. "We've reviewed the documents you provided," Agent Sarah Chen said, her voice steady but her eyes betraying the gravity of what we were discussing. 1,200 deaths, you said? That's conservative, I replied, sliding the encrypted drive across my desk. The actual number could be double that. They knew, the whole executive team knew, and they buried it. What followed was a whirlwind that makes those disaster movies look like documentaries. Within 72 hours, I went from Liam O'Brien, respected CFO with a corner office, to a man whose life hung by a thread thinner than spider's silk. "We need to talk about protection," Agent Chen said during our third meeting, this time in a nondescript safe house that smelled of stale coffee and fear. "Meridian has resources, Mr. O'Brien. The kind of resources that make problems disappear." Marshall Davidson, ironic considering the name I'd later adopt, laid out the terms like he was reading a grocery list. New identity, new location, no contact with anyone from my former life. The words "witness security program" echoed in that sparse room like a death sentence. "For how long?" I asked, though I already knew the answer would be unsatisfying. "Until the threat is neutralized. Could be months, could be years." The hardest part wasn't accepting my fate. It was watching Rachel's face crumble when I told her that evening. We sat in our living room, the one with the vaulted ceiling she'd fallen in love with when we first toured the house, and I watched our 15 years together fracture like ice under pressure. "Come with me," I pleaded, reaching for her hand. She pulled away, the first time she'd ever done that. "My mother has cancer, Liam. Stage 3. I can't leave her." Tears streamed down her face, each one a tiny betrayal of the strength she was trying to project. "And what about my job, my sister, our friends?" "What about us?" I countered, but even as I said it, I saw the answer forming in her eyes. Maybe, maybe this is temporary. When it's over, when you can come back." "Rachel, they want me dead. The people who did this, who killed all those patients. They have fixers, professional ones. This isn't a movie where the bad guys get caught in 90 minutes." That night, Jake Morrison came over. My best friend since Northwestern, the guy who'd been my best man, who'd helped me move into my first apartment, who'd held my head when I drank too much after my father died. He sat across from me, bourbon in hand, the good stuff from my collection, and made a promise that would later turn my stomach. "I'll look after everything, brother," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Rachel, the house, your interests here. You just focus on staying safe." If I'd known then what those words really meant, I might have saved myself 2 years of ignorance. But hindsight is like a sniper's scope. Perfect clarity, but only useful if you're aiming at something that hasn't moved yet. The marshals gave me 48 hours to wrap up my life. 48 hours to compress 41 years into a carry-on bag and a new identity. Michael Davidson, They let me keep my first initial, said it would help with the transition. Small mercy, like keeping your wedding ring while your hand gets amputated. The morning of my departure, Rachel couldn't look at me. She stood in our kitchen, gripping her coffee mug like it was the only thing keeping her upright, and managed 3 words. I love you. I love you too, I replied. But the words felt like trying to hold water in cupped hands. No matter how tightly you press your fingers together, something always leaks through. Jake drove me to the designated pickup point. We didn't talk much. What do you say to someone who's about to stop existing? He pulled me into a bear hug before I got out, the kind men give each other when words fail. Take care of her, I said. Count on it, he replied. 2 years. That's how long I spent as Michael Davidson in Anchorage, Alaska, a place so far from my Minnesota life it might as well have been Mars. The marshals set me up with a job at H&R Block. Bitter irony, considering I'd been managing hundreds of millions in pharmaceutical portfolios. My furnished apartment overlooked a parking lot where snow piled up from October to May, and the northern lights danced overhead like nature's way of mocking my isolation. I learned to live with the silence. No calls from Rachel, no texts from Jake, no emails from colleagues. The marshals had been clear. Any contact could compromise not just my safety, but theirs. So I existed in a bubble, preparing tax returns for people whose biggest worry was whether to itemize deductions, while the weight of 1,200 deaths sat on my shoulders like a yoke made of ghosts. The trial played out in headlines I'd catch glimpses of online. Meridian Pharmaceuticals executives indicted. Whistleblower testimony rocks pharma giant. CEO faces life in prison. Each article was a small victory, but victories taste like ash when you're celebrating alone in a studio apartment that smells perpetually of the previous tenant's cigarettes. Monthly check-ins with my handlers became the only real conversations I had. Marshall Rodriguez would meet me at different locations, a diner, a park, a bookstore, and we'd discuss anything concerning. Any contact attempts? She'd ask. No, ma'am. Anything unusual? Anyone following you? Just the usual Anchorage weird, nothing threatening. Good. Keep your head down. This will be over soon. Soon is a relative term when you're living in purgatory. Then came March 2025, 2 years almost to the day since I'd disappeared into the federal witness protection machine. Marshall Rodriguez called me on a Tuesday. I remember because I was doing returns for a local plumbing company, drowning in receipts for PVC pipe and industrial toilets. It's over, she said without preamble. Convictions across the board. CEO got 25 years, CFO got 18, the rest got various sentences. The company's dissolved, assets liquidated. More importantly for you, the threats have been neutralized. The fixers they hired? All in federal prison. I sat in my cramped office, staring at a motivational poster about perseverance. The irony wasn't lost on me, and felt nothing. I'd expected relief, joy, maybe even vindication. Instead, there was just emptiness, like a tooth socket after extraction. You know something important was there, but all that's left is a hole. There's more, Rodriguez continued. The SEC Whistleblower Award came through, 30% of recovered funds, plus the DOJ False Claims Act payment. How much? I asked, though money felt like an abstract concept after 2 years of living on a government stipend. $47 million. The number hit me like a physical force. 47 million. For telling the truth. For doing what any decent human being should do when faced with evidence of mass murder for profit. Blood money in the most literal sense. You're free to reclaim your life, Mr. O'Brien. Liam O'Brien, you can go home. Home. The word tasted foreign in my mouth, like trying to pronounce something in a language you once knew but forgot. The drive from Anchorage to Minneapolis took 4 days. I could have flown, but I needed the time to decompress, to shed Michael Davidson like a snake molting dead skin. Each mile south felt like recovering a piece of myself. By Montana, I was remembering my real social security number. By South Dakota, I was practicing saying Liam O'Brien out loud, reacquainting myself with the shape of my own name. I reached the outskirts of Edina just as the sun was setting, painting the suburban landscape in shades of gold and amber that made everything look like a memory. My hands shook as I turned onto Woodland Drive, then onto Maple Ridge, and finally onto our street, my street. The house looked exactly the same. Rachel had maintained it perfectly, the lawn manicured, the gardens blooming with early spring flowers, the white colonial facade as pristine as the day we'd moved in. But something was off. There were toys in the yard, a red tricycle, a sandbox, a swing set that hadn't been there before. We'd never had children. We'd tried for years, spent thousands on treatments, before accepting it wasn't meant to be. Then I saw the cars. Rachel's BMW was in its usual spot, but next to it sat a familiar black Audi Q7. Jake's car, my best friend's car, in my driveway. At 8 o'clock on a Thursday evening, I pulled over 3 houses down, my rental sedan anonymous in the gathering darkness, and watched. The living room windows glowed warm and inviting, and through them I could see movement, shadows playing against the curtains like a twisted puppet show. A child ran past the window, then another. 2 children, maybe 4 and 6 years old, chasing each other through what used to be my home. My phone felt like it weighed 50 pounds as I pulled it out and did what I should have done from Anchorage, checked social media. I'd avoided it for 2 years, following martial protocols, but now... Rachel's Instagram loaded slowly, each image another nail in the coffin of my former life. The most recent post. Family movie night? So blessed to have these amazing boys and the world's best husband, Jake Morrison, blessed life, family first. I scrolled back, my throat constricting with each swipe. Their wedding, last summer on a beach in Fiji. The ceremony was beautiful, Rachel in white, Jake in a linen suit, both of them glowing with happiness. The caption. Sometimes your soulmate was right there all along. Thank you for waiting for me, Jake Morrison. Further back, Jake's moving in. So grateful to have someone who stepped up when we needed him most. Real men stay strong. And further still, posted just 6 months after I'd left. Starting over isn't easy, but sometimes necessary. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this difficult time. Special love to Jake Morrison for being my rock. Being her rock. While I was sitting in Anchorage, filing tax returns and eating microwave dinners, my best friend was playing house with my wife in my home. I sat in that rental car for 3 hours, watching the life I should have had play out in shadow and light. Finally, around 11, the lights went out one by one until only the master bedroom, my bedroom, glowed. It too went dark after 20 minutes, and I drove away, each mile feeling like dragging myself over broken glass. The hotel room at the Marriott downtown felt like a decompression chamber. I needed information, real information, not social media facades. So I did what any man with $47 million would do. I hired the best private investigator in Minneapolis. Patricia Wong came recommended by my new attorney, a shark in Armani who specialized in complicated divorces and fraud cases. She sat across from me in the hotel bar, tablet in hand, and laid out 2 years of betrayal with the clinical detachment of a surgeon describing a tumor. Your wife filed for divorce 13 months after your departure, she began, sliding documents across the table. Claimed abandonment. Since you couldn't be located or contacted, the marshal's doing, of course, the judge granted it by default. The house, the assets, everything went to her. But witness protection is a valid defense, but only if you can prove it, which you couldn't at the time without compromising your safety. Classic Catch-22. When did Jake move in? Patricia's expression softened slightly, the first crack in her professional facade. 6 months after you left. The neighbors say he was there constantly before that, helping out, fixing things, being supportive. Being supportive, I repeated, the words bitter as cyanide. There's more, she continued, pulling up financial records. He's been living there rent-free naturally, but he's also been using your boat, your club memberships. Everything transferred to Rachel in the divorce. They've been telling people you abandoned her, that you ran off with another woman and embezzled money from Meridian. Embezzled? I was the whistleblower. The trial records were sealed initially. Most people don't know the details. Jake and Rachel controlled the narrative. I spent the next week with Patricia and my legal team, building a case that would make the Meridian trial look like traffic court. But the real bombshell came when Patricia's cyber investigator pulled the Meridian emails, the ones the FBI had collected but never fully utilized. Look at this, Patricia said, highlighting a thread from 2 weeks before I went into protection. It was between Jake and Meridian's CEO, Richard Steinberg. Jake, the Liam situation needs to be handled. Steinberg, handling it. Our friends in Chicago have solutions. Jake, whatever it takes. He's going to destroy everything. Steinberg, already in motion. Will be resolved within the week. He knew, I said, the words coming out as a whisper. He knew about the threats. He was part of it. It gets worse, Patricia continued. Look at the dates. This was the same day he came to your house, the same day he promised to look after everything. Another email chain, this one between Jake and Rachel, dated just 2 months after I'd left. Jake, he's not coming back, Rach. You need to accept that. Rachel, how can you be so sure? Jake, trust me. Men who run don't come back. And if he does, well, he abandoned you. You deserve better. Rachel, you've always been so good to us. Jake, I've loved you for 15 years. I can love you for 15 more. 15 years. Since the day I'd introduced them at our wedding. My attorney, David Brennan, was practically salivating as we reviewed the evidence. This is conspiracy, fraud, potentially attempted murder if we can prove he knew about the assassination plot. The statute of limitations hasn't run out. We can destroy him. I don't want to destroy him, I said. I want to reclaim what's mine. And I want everyone to know exactly who Jake Morrison and Rachel O'Brien really are. David smiled, the kind of smile that probably scared opposing counsel in courtrooms. I know exactly how we're going to do this. Patricia, when's the next time they're having a gathering at the house? Patricia checked her notes. Saturday, dinner party. They're celebrating Jake's promotion to senior VP at Cargill. 22 confirmed guests, all people from your former social circle. Perfect, David said. Absolutely perfect. The week leading to Saturday felt like preparing for war. David filed sealed document with the court, ready to be unleashed Monday morning. Patricia compiled a dossier that would make the NSA jealous. I bought a new suit, Italian, custom-tailored, the kind of armor you wear when you're about to face your demons. But the masterstroke was the process server. David arranged for him to arrive exactly 15 minutes after I would, papers ready, timing choreographed like a ballet of revenge. Saturday, April 12th, 2025, 7:45 p.m. I sat in the rented Bentley, because if you're going to make an entrance, make it count, watching guests arrive at my house. The Andersons from down the street, the Winfreds from the country club, Dr. Patel and his wife, the whole social constellation that had once orbited around Rachel and me, now circling Jake and Rachel like nothing had changed, except the leading man. At exactly 8 o'clock, I walked up the path I'd laid myself 8 years ago, each flagstone a memory. The doorbell, I'd installed that too, vintage brass from an estate sale, chimed its familiar tune. Rachel answered, wine glass in hand, laughter dying on her lips like a bird hitting a window. She was still beautiful, maybe more so, with a confidence she'd never had with me. But her face, the color drained from it so fast I thought she might faint. Liam? The word came out as a breath, barely audible. You're supposed to be dead, in hiding, gone forever? I suggested, stepping past her into my own foyer. Sorry to disappoint. The living room conversation stopped like someone had pulled the plug on a stereo. 20 pairs of eyes turned to me, recognition rippling through the group in waves. But I only had eyes for Jake, standing by the fireplace, my fireplace, whiskey in hand, looking like he'd seen his own death certificate. Please don't let me interrupt, I said, my voice carrying the kind of calm that comes from 2 years of rehearsing this moment. I just thought I should stop by my own house, see how the new occupants are treating it. Liam, this isn't... Jake started, but I held up a hand. Actually, Jake, this is exactly what it looks like. All of you here, my former friends, probably think I abandoned my wife, ran off with embezzled money, left her to pick up the pieces. Right? Murmurs through the crowd. Some nodding, others looking confused. Let me tell you what actually happened, I continued, pulling out my phone. 2 years ago, I discovered that Meridian Pharmaceuticals, where Jake also worked, by the way, was hiding data about a drug that killed 1,200 people. I reported it to the FBI. In return, Meridian's fixers put a price on my head. The federal government put me in witness protection. I didn't abandon anyone. I was trying to stay alive while making sure the people responsible for those deaths faced justice. That's not... Jake tried again, but I was already connecting my phone to the smart TV they'd installed. My TV, technically. Oh, but it is, Jake. And funny thing about federal investigations, they keep everything. The first email appeared on the screen, blown up for everyone to read. This is Jake, 2 weeks before I left, telling Meridian's CEO that I needed to be handled. That CEO is now serving 25 years, by the way. The room had gone silent, except for the soft clink of ice in glasses as hands started to shake. And here, I swiped to the next email, is Jake discussing his feelings for my wife. 15 years, he says. He's been in love with her since our wedding day. Touching, really. Rachel made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a sob. But wait, I said, my voice taking on the tone of a late-night infomercial. There's more. Here's Jake taking a $500,000 bonus for his help in covering up the Meridian scandal. Blood money, literally. 1,200 dead, and Jake got a new boat out of it. Stop, Jake said, stepping forward. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I cut him off. You knew they wanted me dead. You knew because you were part of the planning. And when I had to disappear, you saw your opportunity. My wife, my house, my life, everything you'd wanted for 15 years. The doorbell rang. Perfect timing. That'll be for you, I said to Jake as Rachel, moving like a zombie, went to answer it. The process server was all business. Jacob Morrison? Jake nodded, unable to speak. You're being served with a civil suit for fraud, conversion, and conspiracy. Rachel O'Brien Morrison? Rachel's hands shook as she took the papers. Property dispute and fraud charges. Additionally, both of you should be aware that criminal charges have been referred to the FBI. They'll be contacting you Monday morning. The server left, and the silence that followed was deafening. Then, like a dam breaking, everyone started moving at once. The Andersons made excuses about babysitters. The Winfreds suddenly remembered an early morning appointment. Within 10 minutes, the dinner party had evaporated, leaving just the three of us in what used to be my living room. How could you? Rachel finally managed, looking at Jake with eyes that had lost all their warmth. You told me he'd abandoned us. You said... I said what you needed to hear, Jake snapped, the mask finally slipping. You were falling apart. I kept you together. You lied to me. For 2 years, you lied. And you believed it, I interjected. You wanted to believe it. Made it easier, didn't it? To move on, to play house, to tell yourself you were the victim. Rachel turned to me, tears streaming down her face. I loved you. I waited 6 months, I said. You waited 6 months. I was in Alaska, living under a fake name, protecting both of us from killers, and you waited 6 whole months before letting my best friend into our bed. It wasn't like that. The emails say otherwise. The Instagram posts say otherwise. The 2 children you had with him say otherwise. That stopped her cold. The children, innocent in all this, but proof of how quickly she'd moved on. I want my house back, I said, pulling out the legal documents David had prepared. The divorce was fraudulent. Abandonment doesn't apply to federal witness protection. This property is mine. You have 30 days to vacate. 30 days? Jake finally found his voice. You can't. Actually, I can. And I will. But that's the least of your problems, Jake. Remember those emails about handling me? The FBI is very interested in those. Conspiracy to commit murder carries serious time. Jake's face went from red to white. I didn't mean... Save it for your lawyer. You're going to need a good one. I recommend starting with the $500,000 you took from Meridian. Oh wait, that's evidence now. It'll be seized Monday morning along with your computers, phones, and anything else the FBI finds interesting. I turned to leave, then stopped at the doorway. My doorway. One more thing. That 47 million whistleblower award? That's mine. So while you're fighting federal charges and trying to figure out how to pay for lawyers, remember, you could have just been my friend. You could have actually looked after my wife instead of sleeping with her. You could have been the man you pretended to be. Instead, you're about to lose everything, and I'll be watching from my house as it happens. Monday morning came like Christmas for someone who'd been very, very good. The FBI raid on Jake's office at Cargill made the evening news. The footage was beautiful. Agents carrying boxes, Jake in handcuffs, his coworkers pressed against windows watching their senior VP get perp-walked to a federal vehicle. The headlines wrote themselves. Meridian scandal claims another executive. Whistleblower's friend arrested in conspiracy. New charges in pharmaceutical cover-up. David called me as I watched from my hotel room. The criminal charges are solid. Obstruction, wire fraud, conspiracy. He's looking at 15 to 20 years if convicted. What about Rachel? No criminal charges. She appears to have been genuinely ignorant of the Meridian connection. But the civil case is ironclad. The house is yours, the divorce will be overturned, and she'll likely owe damages. Over the next 6 months, I watched their lives unravel thread by thread. Jake's legal bills mounted. His attorney required a $100,000 retainer just to start. Cargill fired him the day of his arrest, cutting off his income. His retirement accounts, invested heavily in Meridian stock he'd bought with insider knowledge, were frozen as evidence. Rachel tried to salvage something from the wreckage. She filed for divorce from Jake. Ironic, considering he was broke now, but there was nothing to divide except debt. The children, innocent victims in all this, went to live with her sister while Rachel tried to find work after a decade out of the job market. The social ostracization was complete and brutal. The same people who'd attended their dinner party now crossed the street to avoid them. The country club revoked Jake's membership. Rachel's book club politely suggested she take a break. They became pariahs in the community they'd once ruled. The criminal trial began in October. I testified for 3 days, walking the jury through the emails, the cover-up, Jake's role in trying to silence me. The prosecution had done their homework. They'd found more evidence, including a burner phone Jake had used to communicate with Meridian's fixers. "Mr. Morrison," the prosecutor asked during cross-examination, "did you or did you not tell Richard Steinberg that Mr. O'Brien needed to be, quote, eliminated as a problem?" Jake's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. The jury had seen the email. "I meant eliminated from the company," Jake claimed. The company he'd already left to join the FBI investigation? No response could save him from that logic trap. The verdict came back 2 days before Thanksgiving. Guilty on 3 counts, not guilty on 2 others. The sentencing guidelines suggested 8 to 12 years. The judge, citing Jake's betrayal of his supposed best friend and his role in covering up deaths, went with 10. 10 years. Jake would be 55 when he got out, if he got out early for good behavior. His children would be teenagers who barely remembered him. His career was over. Who hires a convicted felon involved in a pharmaceutical mass murder cover-up? Rachel fared better, but only marginally. Unable to afford lawyers for a protracted civil case, she settled. The house went back to me, along with $200,000 in damages, money she didn't have. She declared bankruptcy, moved into a studio apartment in Richfield, and took an entry-level job at Target Corporate making $38,000 a year. I saw her once, 6 months after the trial, in a Whole Foods in Edina. She was comparing prices on organic milk, something she'd never done when we were married. She looked older, tired, worn down by the weight of consequences. Our eyes met across the dairy section. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she put the milk back, the cheaper option, and walked away without a word. I renovated the house completely. Not because it needed it, but because I needed to exorcise the ghosts. New furniture, new paint, new everything, except the bones of the structure. It was my house again, not theirs. The whistleblower money let me start a foundation for others in similar situations, people who'd risked everything to tell the truth. We provided legal support, temporary housing, job placement assistance, making something good from something horrible. I met Amanda at a fundraiser for the foundation. She was a federal prosecutor, brilliant and fierce, with a laugh that could fill a room. She knew my story. Everyone in legal circles did. But she saw me, not just the whistleblower or the betrayed husband. Must have been tempting, she said on our third date, to handle things differently, less legally. Every day for 2 years, I admitted. But revenge is like chemotherapy. If you're not careful, it'll kill more than just the cancer. So you performed surgery instead. Precise, clean, effective. And legal, I added. And legal, she agreed, raising her wine glass in a toast. We married 2 years later, a small ceremony with just family and a few close friends. Real friends, tested and proven. Our twin daughters were born the following year, filling the house with the laughter it had been waiting for. Jake serves his time in the federal facility in Minnesota. I know because I keep tabs, not from malice, but from a need to know the story's truly over. He works in the kitchen, gets $3 a day, sends most of it to Rachel for the children. He'll be eligible for parole in 2033. Rachel never remarried. How do you trust again after discovering your husband was part of a conspiracy that killed 1,200 people? How do you date when everyone Googles your name and finds the whole sordid story? She sees the children on weekends, loves them fiercely, but the life she'd built on lies couldn't survive the truth. Sometimes people ask if I forgive them. It's a complicated question. Forgiveness implies absolution, a wiping clean of the slate. I can't do that. 1,200 people are still dead, and Jake helped cover it up. Rachel still chose comfort over loyalty, ease over love. But I don't carry hatred either. Hatred is a poison you drink hoping others will die from it. Instead, I carry knowledge that justice, while slow, is inexorable. That truth, while painful, is liberating. That sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, but simply letting people face the consequences of their choices. The house is full of life now. Amanda's in the kitchen, teaching our daughters to make cookies, something Rachel never did, too worried about the mess. The sound of their laughter echoes through rooms that once held conspiracy and betrayal. I still have the emails, printed and locked in a safe deposit box. Not as trophies, but as reminders of how quickly loyalty can turn to betrayal, how easily love can become selfishness, how a moment's choice can cascade into years of consequences. The Meridian executives are still in prison. The company's victims received compensation, though no amount of money brings back the dead. The case became a textbook study in corporate malfeasance and whistleblower protection. And me? I'm Liam O'Brien again. Not the naive CFO who thought his best friend would protect his wife. Not the broken man who spent 2 years in Alaska filing tax returns. But someone new, forged in the fire of betrayal and tempered by justice. The rain still falls on my office window, but it sounds different now. Less like countdown, more like cleansing. Each drop washes away a little more of the past, making room for the future. Recently, I received a letter from Jake, from prison. It was short, just a few lines. Liam, I know I have no right to say this, but I'm sorry. Not for getting caught, but for becoming someone who needed to be caught. You were my brother, and I failed you in every way possible. I don't ask for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what I lost. It wasn't the house or the money or even my freedom. It was my integrity and your friendship. Jake. I read it twice, then filed it away. Some words come too late to matter, like trying to put out a fire after the house has already burned down. But I kept it anyway, evidence that even the worst people can sometimes glimpse the truth about themselves. Amanda asked if I wanted to respond. No, I said. He's got 8 more years to think about it. That's response enough. The foundation has helped dozens of whistleblowers now. We've protected families, saved careers, and most importantly, prevented more cover-ups. Every person we help is a small victory against the culture of corporate silence that enables tragedies like Meridian. One of our recent cases involved a young accountant who discovered her company was dumping chemicals illegally. She was terrified. She'd seen what happened to whistleblowers, how their lives got destroyed. I sat with her in our conference room, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows, and told her my story. They took everything, she said when I finished. Your wife, your friend, your life. No, I corrected. They revealed everything. Who my wife really was, who my friend really was, what my life was really built on. The truth didn't take anything. It just showed me what was already gone. She filed the report. The company was investigated, executives arrested, environment protected. She kept her job, protected by laws that exist because of cases like mine. Sometimes the system works, just slowly and painfully. The twins are 3 now, running through the house with the energy of miniature hurricanes. They'll grow up here, in these rooms that have seen so much. Someday, when they're old enough, I'll tell them the story, how their father stood up to killers in suits, lost everything, and got something better in return. But for now, they just know this. Daddy works to help people tell the truth. Mommy puts bad people in jail, and our house is full of love. That's enough truth for 3-year-olds. The last time I drove past Jake's old office building, Cargill's headquarters, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just nothing. It was like looking at a photograph of strangers, people you might have known once but can't quite place anymore. That's the thing about revenge, even the legal kind. It doesn't fill the hole left by betrayal. It just clears away the debris so something new can grow. And what's grown in my life now, Amanda, the twins, the foundation, the purpose, is worth more than what I lost. The story made it into business schools eventually. The O'Brien case, they call it, a study in corporate ethics, personal betrayal, and the long arc of justice. Students analyze the decisions, debate the ethics, discuss what they would have done. I guest lectured once at Northwestern, my alma mater where Jake and I had met. A student asked the question they all want to know. Was it worth it? Losing 2 years of your life to save strangers? I didn't lose 2 years, I told her. I invested them. In justice, in truth, in becoming someone who could look himself in the mirror. The strangers, those 1,200 victims, they weren't strangers. They were people who trusted a medication to help them and died because a company chose profits over lives. If we don't stand up for them, who will? Another student, bold in the way only 20-somethings can be, asked, "But what about your wife? Don't you wish you'd just kept quiet and kept her?" The lecture hall was silent, waiting. I kept the wife I had, I said finally. A woman who would abandon her husband after 6 months, who would believe lies because they were convenient, who would choose comfort over loyalty. The witness protection didn't end my marriage. It revealed that it was already over. I just didn't know it yet. The professor thanked me afterward, said the students had never been so engaged. But I wasn't there for them, not really. I was there for me, to close a circle that began in those halls 20 years ago, when Jake and I were young and stupid and thought friendship meant forever. Forever is a word I use carefully now. Amanda and I don't promise each other forever. We promise today and tomorrow and to face whatever comes together. It's more honest, more real than the fairy tale Rachel and I told ourselves. The house knows the truth now. Every room has been reclaimed, every corner filled with new memories. The dining room where Jake and Rachel held their dinner parties now hosts foundation meetings. The bedroom they shared is my daughter's playroom. The garage where Jake kept his Audi holds my workshop, where I build furniture, something solid, something real, something that can't betray you. Last week, I ran into Dr. Patel at the grocery store. He'd been at that final dinner party, had watched the whole thing unfold. He seemed uncomfortable, unsure what to say. "I'm sorry," he finally managed, "for believing the lies, for not questioning the story." "Everyone believed them," I said. "That's what good liars do. They make their lies easier to believe than the truth." "Still," he persisted, "we should have known you better." "You knew exactly who I was," I replied. "Just like I knew exactly who Jake and Rachel were. We just didn't want to see it." He invited us to dinner, him, his wife, Amanda, and me. We went. It was pleasant, normal even. You can rebuild bridges, I've learned, but they're never quite the same. The structural integrity is compromised, and you're always aware of where the cracks were. The whistleblower award money after the foundation seed funding and taxes left me with about $30 million. I could have retired, could have moved somewhere tropical and forgotten all of this. But that's not justice. That's just running away. Instead, I work. The foundation has 3 full-time employees now and helps dozens of cases a year. We're the safety net for people who choose truth over comfort, right over easy. Every success story, every corrupt executive imprisoned, every covered-up danger exposed, is a small redemption for those 1,200 Meridian victims. Their families reached out, some of them, thanking me, cursing me, sometimes both. One woman, whose husband died from the drug, sent a letter that I keep framed in my office. "Mr. O'Brien, my husband was patient number 847 in your report. A number to Meridian, but everything to me. Thank you for giving up your life to give him justice. I know the cost was high. Just know that for every family like mine, that cost meant everything. With gratitude, Sarah Williams." That letter is worth more than the 47 million. It's proof that sometimes doing the right thing matters, even when it costs everything. Jake's children visit Rachel every other weekend. I see them sometimes, playing in the park near the house. They look like him. Same eyes, same stubborn chin. They don't know me. Don't know that the house their mother lives near used to be their father's best friend's home. They're innocent, and I intend to keep it that way. Rachel's sister approached me once, angry and defensive. "Haven't you done enough?" she demanded. "You got your revenge. Let her move on." "I got justice," I corrected. "There's a difference, and I'm not stopping her from doing anything. Every consequence she faces is from her own choices." "She loved you. She loved the life I provided. When that life became inconvenient, she loved Jake. Love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice you make every day. She chose wrong." The conversation ended there. You can't argue with truth, only with interpretations of it. The Meridian Victims Fund, established after the trial, has paid out over $200 million to families. It's not enough. How do you price a life? But it's something. The executive's personal assets were liquidated to contribute. Jake's $500,000 went into that fund, a small poetry of justice. I think about those 2 years in Alaska sometimes. The isolation, the silence, the weight of knowing 1,200 people were dead, and I was the only one who could speak for them. It was like being buried alive, but aware that you're holding the rope that could pull others out. Would I do it again, knowing what I'd lose? Yes. Not because I'm noble or heroic, but because the alternative, staying silent, letting murderers profit, keeping my comfortable life built on lies, would have been its own kind of death. You can lose your life in more ways than dying. You can lose it by living as someone you're not, by accepting what you know is wrong, by choosing comfort over conscience. The house is quiet tonight. Amanda's reading to the twins upstairs. Their voices a soft murmur through the ceiling. I'm in my office, the same room where I first reviewed those Meridian documents, where I made the choice that changed everything. There's a photo on my desk now. Amanda and me at our wedding, the twins as newborns, the four of us last Christmas. It sits where a photo of Jake, Rachel, and me used to be, the one from our college graduation. That photo's in a box in the basement, not destroyed but archived, like archaeological evidence of a different life. Sometimes young lawyers from the foundation ask for advice. How do you know when to blow the whistle? How do you know if it's worth it? How do you live with the consequences? I tell them this: truth is like water. It finds every crack, every weakness, every lie. You can try to contain it, redirect it, dam it up, but eventually it breaks through. The only question is whether you're the one releasing it controlled or the one getting swept away when the dam breaks. Jake's dam broke in federal court. Rachel's broke in a divorce lawyer's office. Mine broke the day I walked into that FBI office with evidence of 1,200 murders. The difference is I chose when and how mine broke. That's the only control we really have, not over the truth, but over our relationship with it. The rain has stopped now, leaving the windows clear and the city lights sharp in the distance. Tomorrow, the Foundation has 3 new cases to review. Tomorrow, Amanda has a major trial starting. Tomorrow, the twins have their first day of preschool. Tomorrow, Jake wakes up in federal prison for the 1,847th day. Tomorrow, Rachel goes to her job at Target, scanning her employee badge at the same building where she used to shop without checking prices. Tomorrow, I continue building something better from the ashes of something that was never as good as I believed it was. That's justice, really. Not the dramatic courtroom moment or the handcuffs clicking shut, but the slow, inexorable process of consequences playing out. Every choice echoing forward, creating ripples that become waves that become tsunamis. I chose truth. It cost me everything I thought I had and gave me everything I actually needed. Jake chose betrayal. It gave him everything he thought he wanted and cost him everything that actually mattered. Rachel chose convenience. It gave her temporary comfort and cost her permanent peace. The house stands as testimony to all of it: the betrayal, the justice, the redemption. Its walls have heard confessions and lies, witnessed love and treachery, sheltered criminals, and now protects innocents. It's just a structure, wood and brick and glass, but it's also a symbol that you can reclaim what was taken, rebuild what was destroyed, and fill empty spaces with something better than what was there before. My name is Liam O'Brien. I was a whistleblower who lost everything and gained more. I was a husband who discovered his marriage was a facade. I was a friend who learned that friendship can be the deepest betrayal. Now I'm a father, a husband again, a protector of truth tellers. a builder of new things from old ruins. The story ends not with revenge, but with redemption. Not with hatred, but with indifference to those who chose wrong and love for those who chose right. Not with looking back, but with facing forward, toward tomorrow, toward truth, toward the life that grows when you plant seeds of justice in soil, fertilized by consequences. The rain starts again, gentle this time, washing the city clean for tomorrow's possibilities. I close the laptop, turn off the office light, and head upstairs to join my family. My real family. The one built on truth instead of lies, love instead of convenience, choice instead of chance. Behind me, the office falls dark. But ahead, the whole house glows with warmth and light, and the laughter of children who will grow up knowing their father chose truth over comfort, justice over ease, and integrity over everything. That's the real revenge. Living well, living honestly, living as proof that truth, though painful, is always better than the prettiest lie. The story of Liam O'Brien, the whistleblower who lost everything and gained the world, ends here. But the story of truth versus lies, of justice versus corruption, of choosing right when wrong is easier, that story continues every day, in every choice, in every moment when we decide whether to speak up or stay silent. I chose to speak. The rest is just consequences, playing out like dominoes falling in slow motion, each one inevitable from the moment the first one tipped. And in the end, that's all justice really is. Consequences finally catching up with choices, truth finally overtaking lies, and the universe balancing its books with terrible, beautiful precision.